I work for Center for Social Concern based in Lilongwe.
Human Rights Watch, Africa Division, London.
Kenya for Oxfam.
I'm from Germany working for Bread for the World.
I'm based in Nairobi but work for CAFO.
Working for HEX based in Switzerland doing.
ICAO in the Netherlands.
I'm from Zimbabwe. I work for HEX-EPA.
Zimbabwe Council of Churches, Zimbabwe. For Youth Empowerment Transformation Trust, Zimbabwe.
Lawyers for Human Rights, also from Zimbabwe.
Uganda National NGO Forum, and it's not in Zimbabwe.
Human Rights Network, Uganda.
I'm from Swaziland. I work with the Swaziland Coalition of Concerned Civic Organizations.
The World Movement for Democracy based in Washington, D.C.
From Madagascar.
From Cambodia.
Johannesburg.
Based in Copenhagen, Denmark.
And I'm from Denmark.
Ethiopia and working for Women Support Association.
I'm from India.
I work with the Malawi Human Rights Research Center. We are based in Lilongwe, and welcome everyone to Malawi.
My name is Maina Kiai, and I am the UN Special Rapporteur on the rights to freedom of peaceful assembly and of association. I'm here in Malawi as part of a consultation for Southern African NGOs, and it was agreed to host it, to have it in Malawi. And we're looking at challenges that civil society organizations within the sub-region have got. I'm here to learn about the challenges, the issues, the successes even that are going on, and so that also that people from this part of the world can influence me in the work that I do.
We work on human rights, and when you work on human rights, there are many possibilities that you can face challenges, you can face restrictions, you can face threats.
Our organization and also the wider civil society organizations in Uganda have faced a lot of restrictions. And notably, the nature of our work involves unearthing human rights violations that have been committed by government. And we have seen a trend in the country whereby government is very uncomfortable with the work of civil society in terms of unearthing the ills that are happening within the government.
Restrictions and threats are part of our work because we work with local communities, we mobilize local communities around issues. At times you deal with the electoral issues, and because of that we are always confronted with issues from the police.
We have had a number of threats as an organization. First and foremost, disappearance of laptops and equipment. We have also received threats, telephone calls, anonymous, directed to the Chief Executive Officer, unknown personalities following up some of our staffs until their gates. We believe these are threats from state agents who are planted to ensure that issues concerning governance, issues concerning human rights don't come out to the public domain, and people working in that area should not really freely operate in the country.
I was denied a passport. My passport was impounded. And it was impounded not because of anything else, but because I went and asked for extra sheets. And impounded because I have a criminal case pending against me for the last 8 years, registered against me and 15 other colleagues for challenging a policeman who was known to be somebody who had committed several cases of torture and extrajudicial killings.
Because we're a network of youth organizations and we have a presence nationwide in the country, at some point the government felt that we are a threat to them, and we got suspended in 2009. Our registration was suspended because one of our partner organizations had hosted an activity which was deemed to be political by government.
The state is using legislation to stifle civil society operations in Uganda. We have seen a number of legislations that have come into force. We have seen the NGO Amendment Act, which stifles operations of civil society, and the regulations, and specifically it tries to prevent you to get in contact with the communities. You need to first seek permission from the RDCs, who are representatives of the president in the districts. We have seen the Anti-Terrorism Act, which is also very restrictive, and now we have the Public Order and Management Act that was passed recently. You need to notify the Inspector General of Government 2 weeks in advance of your engagement, and the people you're going to engage with. You have to state the number and who are they and the issues you're going to discuss. And they might deny or accept. It creates individual liability on the organizers. In case you organize a rally and anything happens, then you're individually responsible for everything there. You shouldn't discuss anything negative or anything or any failures of government. So this is a very big challenge. You see, you shouldn't discuss any failures of government. So is that good for a democratic state? It's not good.
Our registration under the Foreign Contribution Regulation Act of 2010, which is an amended legislation, we have lost our registration, which means our registration goes, our bank accounts are frozen. It is the third suspension that I have in a row. A suspension is a period of 180 days of suspension, and mine is the third suspension in a row.
I cannot confidently say that there is enabling environment or good space for civil society participation, as there are different restrictions on thematic areas engagement due to the current and the new CSO legislation for Ethiopian civil societies. The legislation requires a re-registration of civil society organization, and there is 2 categories for re-registration, and those who want to re-register as Ethiopian charities, they are allowed to work on right-based issues, but they are not allowed to raise their funds more than 10% from foreign source. They are expected to raise 19% from the local communities, but this is, I can't say it is impossible.
We have seen that our leaders in Africa learn from each other and they borrow bad habits from each other, and we don't say anything when that's happening. So for example, right now, as I said, Kenya is considering passing a bill that would essentially kill off NGOs.
We are feeling threatened with the bill that is in place, the PBO Amendment Bill 2013, and that is threatening our existence because it is stating that as CSOs we will not receive more than 15% of our funding from foreign donors. And as an organization, we depend entirely on foreign donation. So should this go through, we feel threatened that this will reduce our space for operation and might bring our operations to a standstill. That is the threat that we are facing right now.
What does it mean? It means that the organization has lost over 120 staff members, has had to close down several programs, particularly and more passionately the program on rehabilitation of torture and domestic violence victims. Many NGOs are being targeted like this, particularly those who are organizing people, organizing mass protests of people over a long period of time on a variety of issues like displacement due to dams, threat due to nuclear plants that are being commissioned, etc. And the attack is usually thinking that this is being funded from abroad, hoping that the struggle would stop because funds are stopped. And that doesn't happen. The struggle continues.
This is an issue, for example, that need not be a Kenyan issue alone, because I can guarantee you, if it succeeds in Kenya, it will be brought to Malawi, it will go to Zambia, it will go to Southern Africa, all parts. So it's important, again, even for self-interest, but really for principle. The same way that African leaders stand up for each other, that even us within NGOs stand up for each other. So I would love to see that there's a demonstration by Malawian NGOs at the Kenyan embassy in Lilongwe saying you must not pass this, this is a violation, that NGOs are part of society and we must keep it going. And this kind of cross-border solidarity is crucial. So yes, it means that we take time away from the issues we deal with that are sometimes very, 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 very demanding, but we have to build space for each other.
have seen in the past 3-4 years civil society space shrinking, and as one of the leaders, we didn't just sit down and watch. We stood up to defend the space, and we stood up to the point of mobilizing Malawians. More than 200 Malawians were mobilized to stand against the regime that was oppressive.
What we've done is we've engaged the police. We've not run away from them. We've gone to them and said, look, what we're doing is within our rights. What we're doing is within the constitution of Zimbabwe. What we are doing is to address issues that affect the generality of the Zimbabwean citizens.
We talk, we find out the best ways to engage government without being threatening. We try and understand their perspective. We allow them to hear us out. We invite them to our spaces.
We try to lobby the government through different network organizations, and the network organization have the capacity to create space and conduct dialogue between the government and the civil society. So they are trying to lobby the government for the improvement of these laws, and we hope in the future there will be some improvements.
A lot of times civil society is misunderstood, so we try and break that impasse between civil society and government and other stakeholders, including donors. So we invite all our stakeholders, we bring them together, and we talk things out, in a non-conflict or non-aggressive manner, and that has somewhat helped us.
What we need as CSOs is to be engaged right from the beginning. We are not here to be just consulted, because we are partners in development. We complement government on developmental issues. So we should be there as they are crafting and designing programs.
We are all human beings. Government can make a mistake. CSOs can make a mistake. There is need for us to enter into dialogue, to enrich each other without necessarily being constricted. So the government should allow us to criticize them. They should also criticize us. And in that way, we will be able to develop a wider space, a democratic space, in the true sense of democracy.
It becomes very difficult when you're engaging somebody and tomorrow that person is in the media saying that we shall deregister you. It's very common in Uganda. Currently, the Minister of Internal Affairs is a general, and the IGP of police is a general, and these are people holding key offices which relate with civil society organizations. And currently there's been a campaign around the oil areas in Albertine Gravin, whereby the minister himself categorically was saying that we shall deregister any civil society jeopardizing oil exploration in the region. You see? So where you receive such comments from the minister, do you expect any tangible result in terms of dialogue?
We are seeing in Canada, we are seeing the government beginning to squeeze environmental groups and also First Nations. We are seeing in Britain that in groups that are protesting capitalism are being labeled radical extremists. So you're seeing across the world a shrinking of space. So it's not just in Africa or Asia. There's actually a shrinking of space. And I think that makes me feel very sad, for one, and makes me feel sometimes that maybe I'm failing. But this is precisely because of the trends of shrinking space that my mandate was created by the United Nations.
There's so much at stake. The civil society space is shrinking. Not so much maybe in Malawi, but it is in all our neighboring countries, and it's a concern. And I think it's important that we be proactive and not just reactive when new legislation, new restrictions is introduced. So I think this is an eye-opener that we should definitely use and make sure that we are better prepared.
The international community fell asleep when Ethiopia shrank the space so dramatically. It fell asleep, it decided it's not going to say anything, it accepted it easily. And not only accepted, but actually rewarded Ethiopia. And now we are seeing the fruits of that beginning to spread across Africa. So there is a duty on people first in the country, but also on international community, that they have a role to expand the space, and they must not sit by when these things happen and let it happen.
Mobilizing people, this is one of the issues I heard maybe 10 times these days. Mobilizing people, getting to the streets or sitting at the table and talking. I think it's very relevant that we get some clarification on this issue. What do you think about it?
The NGO sector itself has been extremely corporatized and is beginning to mirror itself.
Each NGO also has to question itself, what is our way to work best for ourselves, but also best for the well-being of the beneficiaries or of the people concerned.
I think one of the problems that cripples the operations of the CSOs is that attitude of being reactive from the donors.
Agreeing that agenda and then going to the different actors and saying, this is what we want to do, how can you help us? It does help move the agenda forward and puts civil society in a position of agency.
They have started very much Machiavelli, and whatsoever they do, they are governing the governments they call democratic, but they have invested very much in the principles of Machiavelli. They want to instill a lot of fear in us, and when we don't have the stamina, we don't have the muscles, we are finished.
And it took almost 2 days to bring Machiavelli into the debate, so thank you very much.
It was a very enriching debate, and it has a lot of meaning for us across the globe. You can't just push it away saying it is an African debate.
Enabling environment means protection of all human rights.
Space for participation and freedom for expression.
Space to civil society.
Policies and laws.
Protests, freedom of speech.
Civil society.
Democracy.
Enabling environment for me means the space to work, the space to protest, and the space to recreate our own country.
We demand accountability, we demand representation, we demand good governance, we demand that the rights of everybody are maintained.
We don't have to fight it on our own, we don't have to create that space on our own, but that we have to create linkages.
Solidarity is what we need, and that is the call of the hour.